Championship resumes this Saturday. Different manager in the dugout for Norwich City. The long trip to Deepdale to face Preston. And with that, delighted to be joined by Tom Sandells, a Preston writer. So, Tom, just want to sort of get the general feeling for what's happened so far this season at Preston. So, what you sit 10th in the table at the moment. So that would seem a fairly positive campaign to date.
Yeah, it's not been too bad. It's a strange one, I suppose, because I suppose North End are in a position that a lot of other teams are in the division, where they've been in the playoffs and they've been kind of in a better position than they currently are. So, especially coming back from the World Cup, they ended up losing. Well, they beat Blackburn Rovers, but then lost 3 in a row. So it's a bit of a strange mood at the moment, where they've only just kind of managed to get back to winning ways, and with January, a couple of injuries and a bit of a lack of squad depth, it's a funny spot where things were going a little bit downhill and was getting a bit more negative, but they won the last game, so it's also a little bit better at the moment as well.
Yeah, Ryan Lowe been in the job just over a year now, so kind of wanted to know what the expectations were at the start of the season and maybe where you expect North End will be towards the end of the season.
I think the expectations were probably top half. You'd hope to be around there. Hopefully have a push at the playoffs, which is kind of what has happened. They've been in there in their own rights. There's times where PNE can get in the playoffs, and then once everyone else plays and catches up, they're then back out of it. But they've been in there when everyone else has played. It's probably a squad at the moment that is a little bit off the playoffs. It's probably not quite good enough, especially when you've got the likes of Norwich and West Brom at the moment, who are in the playoff mix, Watford as well. They are stronger squads. So you kind of hope for a lightning in a bottle moment where everything just seems to click. Everyone in the team hits form long enough just to stay around there. Ryan Lowe talks a very good game. He likes to get the fans going. He likes to interact with the supporters. So I think that raised expectations a little bit. But the limitations are the limitations, and they've kind of, they've shown a little bit this season, which is why they are a bit off the playoffs. I think January will be important if they can add a couple just to bolster things and just try and push on beyond where they are. Then they have a chance. But, so does half of the division at the moment.
Yeah, Norwich not won at Deepdale in the league since 2017. Just 3 wins in 13 there so far this season. So has there maybe been an issue in terms of the home form? Maybe what's the reason behind that?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely been an issue. It's not an issue exclusive to this PNE team. It's an issue that's kind of been a North End problem for a little while now. I think it's just the case that they set up better away from home. It plays into the hands a little bit more. They're able to press teams a bit more, and home teams naturally a little bit more open when PNE are given the task of breaking down teams and showing that cutting edge, showing a bit of, a clinical side to the game. It is generally lacking, and it is because those players cost money, and PNE don't have the money to kind of set themselves apart from other teams. So it's the nature of their own style. They want to be on the front foot. They want to be pressing. But when teams come in to sit in and let North End have the ball, it can then, cause them a few problems in trying to break them down.
Yeah, you won the reverse fixture 3-2 at Carrow Road, sort of back up about October time, wasn't it? What are your reflections on that game, and maybe what did you make of Norwich that day, and just sort of in general in terms of the championship as well?
Yeah, Norwich looked really good, particularly at the start. Obviously, they got a really early goal as well. But then it seemed like North End got to grips with them, really. And it was at a time where PNE weren't scoring. And then they get 3 in one game, and they weren't really conceding either. And they conceded 2 in that game. So it was almost like a watershed game for PNE at that point. But yeah, Norwich are impressive. They're very good on the ball. They've got very good players and Premier League experience, all that sort of stuff. And I guess it just hasn't quite clicked so far for them in the same way that it, I guess, hasn't clicked for Watford either. So it's not, I suppose, a problem specific to Norwich. But yeah, they're a very good side. When you got players like Sargent and Pookie, and as I mentioned earlier, that can almost decide games in moments, and you've got a chance, especially in a division like the Championship, where games are so tight for so long, and it is maybe an error, it maybe is a moment of quality that can win you games, that can set you apart from the rest.
Yeah, you just mentioned there sort of the defensive, resolute nature of PNE, sort of in that sort of initial spell at the start of the season. Just want to know sort of maybe what the philosophy and sort of style of football that Ryan Lowe's implemented at Preston. Obviously, Alex Neil was the former manager, formerly the Norwich City parish. So, has there been maybe any contrasting differences between their sort of systems?
Yes, because Lowe plays three at the back, right? Alex Neil always used to play 4-2-3-1. There was a brief spell where Frankie McAvoy was in charge permanently. His assistant obviously was also at Norwich as well. He favoured a three at the back system as well. So there was less change between Frankie and Ryan as there has been between if you jump from Alex to Ryan because it was the change in system. Ryan says he likes to play out from the back. When he first joined, it was defend with 4, attack with 6. It's not always turned out that way. He definitely plays out from the back, but it's not always a possession-based style, which is what he wants. But I suppose it's the nature of the beast of the Championship in that you can't always play the way you want to. Sometimes you have to play the most effective way in order to get the win. But yeah, they like to, where possible, press and keep the ball. The very, a modern day coach. He's still a young coach, Ryan, so he's very much of that mold. Whether PNE have the technical players to execute it all the time, possibly not, but they're definitely never short of endeavour and the work ethic that can get them over the line quite a lot of times, to be fair. I mean, did so recently against Stoke.
Yeah, you've had sort of a relative spell in the Championship now, quite a good experienced Championship squad. But just want to know who's maybe been the standout performer so far this season. Has there maybe been anyone you brought in more recently that's maybe stood out? I know you've made a recent January signing as well.
Yeah, Tom Cannon came in this week off Everton, so that'll be interesting to see how he goes. He'll be eligible for the Norwich game, which could be his debut. I think the standouts this season are probably the people at the back, the Freddie Woodman, Jordan Storey, Liam Lindsay. Jordan Storey was on loan at Sheffield Wednesday for the second half of last season. He came in and has been absolutely fantastic. Liam Lindsay, again, was struggling for game time last season, has come in this season and been absolutely fantastic. The pair of them, I think, are ranked, if you go off stats and average ratings, all that sort of stuff, if you're a believer of those things, they're ranked very highly in the division. Freddie Woodman's come in and been absolutely fantastic as well. He had a tough job replacing Daniel Everson, but he's come in and been brilliant. But more so of late, Ched Evans has been in really good form. Goals haven't really been regular for him since he joined North End, but he's very disruptive and he's very effective in what he does. I think he is a target man, but there is a technical side of his game in there as well. And he's just found a bit of scoring form, 6 goals in 7. So it's kind of carried PNE through these recent games. And they very much need him to keep that up because goals are a premium at PNE, and especially with Emil Rees, who's now looking like he might be out for a long time. You've got basically Evans, who is fully fit, Tom Cannon, who's coming in for kind of his first senior experience, and then Troy Parrott, who's been injured since the last game against Norwich. So there aren't a lot of options up there at the moment.
Yeah, before we sort of get your thoughts on the game, just want to touch on David Wagner is going to be his first game in the dugout for Norwich City. So what impact do you think that's going to have on this game? Sort of a new manager. Is that maybe an issue for PNE coming up against that sort of new manager bounce potentially?
Yeah, it's interesting. There is always that new manager bounce, but there can also be maybe a settling in period. PNE played Middlesbrough in Michael Carrick's first game in charge, and they've been in fantastic form since he took over. But PNE managed to beat them on the day. And I think that was probably more a case of the team just still getting used to the way he wanted to play and all that sort of stuff. So I think it could go either way. Hopefully, from PNE point of view, there's no bounce and they're still trying to get used to the different way that Wagner may want to work. But I suppose it all remains to be seen until Saturday.
And yeah, with that, I just want to get your thoughts on the game and a score prediction.
I'd like to think it'll be another open game. I thought the last game was really good, a really good game of football. Both sides kind of wanted to play out from the back, and on the day, both showing really good quality on the ball. I'll go for 1-1 as a score prediction because I feel like both teams should hopefully have a goal in them, and North End don't win at home, unfortunately.
Yeah, with that, we'll round off the show. Thanks for joining me, Tom. Really, really appreciate your time. Lots of great content across our channels at the moment. Chris Sutton's latest column is up. We'll be speaking to the man, David Wagner, on Friday morning. So all the latest news and team news will be up across our channels on Friday. So keep it locked on the Pink and Plus app, and we'll round off the show there. Thank you for joining me, Tom.
Thank you.